Attack your opponent's castled king. Hey, this is H1, and we're going to be running it back with another episode talking about chess knowledge, chess wisdom, and chess understanding. And today we'll be going over a game, Marcio Melgusa against Jamie Zulaga. They're not grandmasters, but they are over 2,000 rating. I think I found Marcio's rating. It was his last FIDE rating was 2296, but this was such a good game I couldn't pass it. So let's get into it right quick. Okay, let's get into the game right quick. E4, E5, F4, E takes, F4, Bishop C4, Knight F6, Knight C3, C6, and then Bishop B3. After Bishop B3, we have the moves D5, E takes D5, C takes D5, all right? And then D4, Bishop D3, and Knight G, E2. After Knight G to E2, Black decided to play F3, which is a little inaccuracy, but it's not enough to lose the game. G takes F3 is what White played, and then Black decided to castle their king because it's such a good idea. After castle king side, we got Bishop G5 pinning the knight to the queen, so if this knight moves, then we'll just snap that queen right off the board. And after Bishop E6, the computer decided that that was a mistake and that H6 was the best move. But we're going to figure that out why that was a mistake pretty soon, especially after White played Queen D2 in this next move. Because you already know what the plan is, queenside castling. And if White queenside castle and both opponents castle on opposite sides of the board, that means that there's a war that's about to brew. And which is White's main idea is to attack the kingside castle. All right. And Black's main idea is to attack the queenside castle position. And so, yeah, we're going to see a lot of fireworks pretty soon. Black decided to play the move Bishop E7 to get out of the pin, which is very reasonable. And then White continued on with their plan to queenside castle and attack the castled king on the king side. Black's pieces, yeah, I'm going after you. After Queen D2, Black decided to relieve the pin by going to Bishop to E7, which is very reasonable. But White continued on with their plan by castling on the queen side. Yes, sir. Hey, this was back in 1991 and everybody was aggressive. And clearly White had some grievance against the Black pieces because he decided to attack this castled king instead of playing it really passive, which in this position is already too late to play it passively, especially when you're missing a pawn on the G file. But after queenside castle, we have another inaccuracy, Knight B D7, even though that seems like a developing move. You know, the computer suggested that Knight C6 was a little bit better. Every move counts when both kings are castled on opposite sides of the board. And after Knight B to D7, White went ahead and got ready to attack his opponent by doing the move Rook H G1, putting the rook on the same file as their opponent's king. Yeah, so we already know what Marcio is going to be doing for the next few turns. Let's just stop right quick because I want to analyze this position since we're in the middle game. Both sides is castled and both sides has all of their pieces. Which side would you rather play? Which side has more advantages? Well, let's get into it right quick. First of all, Black is missing a pawn on the C file. So that would be good to put their rook on the C file to attack the king on the C1 square. White doesn't have a pawn on the G file. And that's good because he's already taken control of it and he's trying to attack the Black king on the G8 square. Let's look at our board right quick, our white board, and see who's better or who has the better pieces. First of all, material is the same. The development, they both have an equal amount of development, but White is winning on the development since their rook on H1 moved to G1, and this rook on A8 is pretty much out the game until it is moved to C8. So yeah, White is good on development, just a little bit, like a small plus on development. Let me put a small plus. It'll become a bigger plus once you kind of see what a brews after this. King safety. Who has a safer king? I would say that white has a safer king since black's pieces in this position, they're pretty passive. That's why the computer wanted black to do knight c6, because they're crunched up in the center, not really doing a lot, not really doing a whole bunch. And then when you see white's pieces, they're pretty dynamic. They're outside of the board, but they're coordinated too, because they're all protected at the same time. This knight can hop to f4. This knight is attacking this pawn. This bishop is attacking this pawn. And remember, this is an isolated d pawn. Now black has to keep on protecting this pawn when everything crazy is going on with their king. That's another hindrance of black's position. Everything is going on. The coordination of white's pieces are way better than the coordination of black's pieces. I would say that, especially since they had to do an extra move to go to bishop e7 to break the pin on this h4 to d8 diagonal. Now, king safety, I'm going to give it to white. I'm giving that to white. Center control. I guess you can kind of give it to the black pieces, maybe, but let's see who's attacking these four center squares. The e4, d4, d5, e5 squares. You would still have to give it to white because they got their rook, their queen on the d file. They got their knight heading here. They got their knight protecting this pawn on the d4 square. This d4 pawn is attacking this square on e5. This bishop is attacking this pawn. And then a lot of things are going on here. So I would have to give it to white. And then space, definitely white, right? And the white position, they got all of this for free, not even sacrificing material. And you could say that this is pretty much equal. They got all these four things: the development, the king safety, the center control, the space, without any disadvantage at all. So, yeah, this is a pretty awesome position. I would love to play on the white side. And that's why the computer's already giving white a 3-point advantage, which is really big. That's pretty much winning. If you're not winning in this position, then hey, I don't know what you're doing with your chess career. All right. And I know it's hard for beginners to like convert these, but these are the type of positions you have to learn how to convert. Oh, my bad. I forgot about one other thing that you need to keep in mind when you're evaluating a position, which is pawn structure. Now, pawn structure is, if you look at white's position, yeah, they have a terrible pawn structure, especially on the king side. But black has an isolated d pawn, and you're going to have to just weigh your pros and cons in these type of positions. After rook h to g1, black decided to get out the same file of the rook by doing king h8, because if it was white's move again, they could do easily bishop h6 to attack this g7 pawn. But not having the king on the same file as the rook, they can't do bishop h6 anymore. After king h8, white decided to do knight f4, and then knight b6 is what black did. Okay, after knight b6, we got the move queen g2 that was played right after, rook e8, another inaccuracy, rook d e1, and then the big blunder, queen d7. The computer liked bishop d6 a lot more, but this was just a losing position overall. Anybody would say that this was a hard position to defend. Even the elite grandmasters would think that, hey, you know, just cut your losses. Your pieces aren't very organized at the spots of where they are right now. So after queen d7, the blunder, white was thinking to himself, you know, maybe I have something here. All my pieces are attacking my opponent. I'm following all the principles, you know, having 4 to 5 pieces to have a successful attack. And usually in this position, I should be deciding if I'm going to have a pawn storm attack or am I going to have a piece attack. And usually when you have a piece attack, you have to sacrifice a piece, especially if you're attacking your opponent's king side. So the move that was played here was bishop h6. Now this isn't a sacrifice because if g takes on h6, then queen g7 is definitely checkmate. That will rock your world, right? Black decided to play g6 to defend. And when you see moves like this, you should be happy. And you should be looking for more sacrifices in this position. Because after white played rook takes e6, you can just look at your opponent's face and be like, what is going on? You can just see it on his face. What's going on? Can you keep a poker face after seeing the move rook takes on e6? Because after f takes e6, then knight takes g6, it's checkmate in 6. And queen can't take on e6, or I'll just take the queen and be in a winning position after being up in material. You don't want to give your opponent up in material after I'm attacking your king. Then I'll get both. I get material and to attack your king. That's what I wanted from the beginning. So after rook takes on e6, they did knight g8. When you see moves like this, you're already knowing that you're losing. When you see, you already know that your opponent is losing. When you see moves like this, that should be a good indication. And that's what white did. He foreseen that. He was like, well, there should be something else in this position. So rook takes on g6. Both pawns are attacking the rook. Is it still a good idea to take this rook? The quick answer is no. It's not. It's not at all. And then after rook takes on g6, f takes g6, and then you already know the sacrifice. Knight takes on g6, h takes on g6, and then one final move. Can you think about the one final move that happens in this position? Think about it right quick. Okay, I gave you a second. Bishop g7, finish the game off. Because if king takes on g7, queen takes on g6, and threaten checkmate in about two moves after this. And this forces the situation. I'm pretty sure there's probably another winning move somewhere around here. But let me just do a random move on my computer. Oh, nope. Nah, you're gonna have to do bishop g7 because your opponent is up in material after you gave away the rook. I was just trying to be too fancy, but no, you should just demolish your opponent. But anyway, this is the game. This should have showed you how to attack your opponent, even though there's more principles that you need to take away from other games, other classic games. That's why I would suggest look at my checkmate patterns, my playlist on checkmate patterns, and my tactics playlist. All right. Have a nice day.